Hello, today is Tuesday, April 20th. Today I did some back squats and overhead press with some accessories, and back squats went pretty well. Overhead press, not so much, but I think overall, feel pretty good about the day, I guess. Today, like last week, I've really been thinking about something I've been talking a lot about with my coach, but this idea of setting active hips and making sure that I'm utilizing as much as I can of my posterior chain instead of just sort of relying on my quads and only my quads for the squat. And I think today, in terms of execution and technique, I think my top set definitely looked better than they have before. Obviously the top set, with it just being the heaviest load of that day, is always, compared to the down sets and the warm-ups, they're always gonna, I guess I can't say always, but they generally are the hardest to maintain technique. I think the thing worth mentioning, though, is that I think overall, although execution and technique-wise, it's better than they have been before, I think overall, in terms of just purely strength, I think this top set moved a little slower because I've just been getting weaker. So that's the first rep of the top set. That still looks pretty good in terms of technique. And but you can see that sort of little pause, I guess, like halfway up in that sticking point. But basically, when I used to squat for powerlifting, I did way more volume than I'm doing right now, which is, right now in terms of back squat, I'm only doing, 4 sets of 3 on this day and per week, because I only back squat once per week, which is just way less squat volume than I did to progress while I was powerlifting, which I don't think is necessarily a problem, like me getting weaker just purely in terms of strength, especially right now, because I think the primary goal is not necessarily to gain strength, but rather to get more consistent execution and technique-wise at the comp lifts, which I'm basically still in the process of learning how to do. And if me getting weaker strength-wise is that's really what's happening, and the solution were to increase my squat volume, but have it significantly affect my comp lifts, then I don't think it would be worth it. So, but yeah, I think I'm happy with the execution. I think in the technique, I just wasn't very happy with, I guess the way it moved, which was very slow. It felt a lot slower than it looked on video, but, so that was squat. And then I moved on to overhead press, for which I decided to use a belt for the first time, but not my very sturdy, clunky powerlifting belt that I was just using for my squats, but rather my new hook grip weightlifting belt, which honestly, when I put on right after this warm-up set, I put it on starting at 135, but I was very, very surprised at how thin it felt. It honestly, maybe it was because I put it on right after I had the really thick powerlifting insert belt on, but it honestly didn't really feel like I was wearing anything. So maybe it helped. I'm sure it did a little bit, but it didn't really feel like it, to be completely honest. But so this is the top set. This is a grind. I barely eke out the last rep. That at this point I'm okay, I don't know if I can get this last rep. And honestly, I'm leaning back as I'm pushing up, but I'm also trying to push back, which sort of towards the top made me lose a lot of balance. And I honestly I'm surprised that I was able to lock it out. But that was RPE 12. But that shit was hard. That last rep too, even just the first down set of 3 felt really hard. But I was trying to apply this cue of leaning back further in the ascent, which is something that my coach was telling me about, but I either wasn't doing correctly, or like the combination of pushing back and leaning back like was what led to just me losing balance. But yeah, so this is the last down set. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have any particular reason to wear the hook grip belt over the insert belt. I think it was just out of wanting to try it. Oof. Yeah, I think if the overhead press was some sort of, I don't know, like lift in a competition, there was definitely downward movement. So, yeah. But anyways, yeah, I didn't really have any particular reason to wear my hook grip over my insert belt. So I think next week, in an attempt to try to continue either pushing the weight or keeping the same weight but doing it better, I'll probably wear my insert belt. And hopefully that'll help a little bit more, or at least feel like it helped a little bit more. But yeah, so that was overhead press. Wasn't super happy with that, how it felt or how any of it looked, but hopefully I'll just get better at it. And then, yeah, I did some push-ups. And then these bodyweight Tempo Bulgarian split squats are honestly really freaking hard. Like, I've done weighted Bulgarian split squats. I've done like 8s with like, I don't know, like, I think the most I've ever done is like 8s with like 65-pound dumbbells in each hand. And this was comparable in terms of difficulty to that, just because I was really focusing on the tempo. But yeah, that shit hurts. But it's definitely working. But yeah, overall, not bad.